Thanks everyone for joining. Uh, Albert Lee here with the city of San Jose and joined by my incredible team here in the city and all the fantastic folks, all of us in the GovAI Coalition for our May 2026 coalition-wide meeting. So I'm going to pass it off. We got a good couple of items here today. First, I'm going to pass it off to Sean for some announcements across the coalition. Then we're going to do a deep dive into our use cases committee meeting and a lot of the work that they've been doing around vibe coding safely and effectively for governments. And then we've got a few announcements, calls to action, next steps that we'll have people walk away with. So thank you again for taking the time. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Sean for announcements.
Thank you, Albert. Hello, everyone. I'm Sean Tamrazi, AI and Privacy Analyst here at the City of San Jose. For those of you who may be newer to the coalition, just a quick overview of how we're structured. We are a collective of over 900 local, state, and federal agencies and 3,000 practitioners, all committed to advancing responsible AI adoption and governance in the public sector. The coalition is guided by a board and supported by our San Jose facilitation team, and most of the actual work happens across our committees. Each of these committees focuses on a different part of responsible AI adoption, from readiness and adoption to data governance, procurement, industry relations, and use cases. One quick note here, community engagement is now part of the Readiness and Adoption Committee as of March. That change reflects how closely engagement is tied to actually implementing AI in government. If you're looking to get involved, the committees are really where conversations happen. You can find all upcoming meetings on our Google Calendar, which is linked on this slide.
Sean, are you grabbing the link for it?
Oh, I could, yeah.
No, I'll take care of that. You just keep on pushing.
Okay, next slide, please. Next, just a quick reminder on guidelines for coalition meetings. We ask that you do not use AI note takers during these sessions and to please disable them if you currently have one running. With large meetings like this, those tools can create disruptions for other participants. Everything shared here will still be accessible. We post all recordings on YouTube, share slides, and include key takeaways in the newsletters, so you won't miss anything. This just helps keep the experience smooth for everyone. Moving into announcements, our May newsletter is out. This was shared earlier today, so take a look when you have a chance. We include updates from across the coalition, upcoming meetings, and relevant developments in AI and policy. We're also looking for contributions. So if you have something to share, whether it's a use case, insight, or resource, you can submit ideas for a future newsletter using the link on this slide. Next up, we have an exciting update on the GovAI Coalition Summit. This year's summit will take place between December 9th through 11th here in San Jose. This is a great opportunity to connect with peers across government and go deeper on AI adoption, governance, and real-world use cases. Registration is now open, and we encourage you to secure your spot early. We're also collecting input on session topics and speakers, so if you have any ideas or are interested in presenting yourself, please take a moment to fill out the survey linked here. Thank you, Albert, for putting that in the chat. Next, we want to share a new pilot we're launching to better connect governments with support from civil society. One challenge we've heard consistently is that governments need more capacity and support to move AI work forward, and there are many organizations eager to help. But it's not always easy to connect the right opportunities with the right agencies. So we're testing this simple model. Civil society organizations can submit opportunities. The coalition will then select the most promising ones and highlight those opportunities in meetings and newsletters. And finally, we help connect interested agencies. This is meant to lower the barrier to forming meaningful partnerships without creating extra work for government staff. If you are interested, please fill out the Google form linked on this slide. Thank you again, Albert, for the links in the chat. Now, to make this pilot effective, we've outlined what type of submissions are most useful. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. We're looking for opportunities that clearly support government work, things like partnership, pilots, or resources that provide real capacity, expertise, or funding. On the other hand, this is not the right channel for things such as general research requests, survey without clear benefit, or vendor-driven product pitches. The goal here is to keep this focus on practical, high-value opportunities for agencies.
And Sean, if I could just add a quick note on this,
Sure.
as Sean mentioned, but we've part of the power of the coalition and how we've had this large unity across governments, not only in the US, but abroad, is a lot of civil society. So, like nonprofits, universities, think tanks, they've been getting excited around how they can actually support our local governments, our local and state governments, and especially our towns that, you know, aren't as connected to the nonprofit space as like San Jose has been fortunate enough to. What we're opening up and we're testing out is this way to filter down the opportunities that civil society is coming out and saying, hey, we want to actually help make an impact, support your government, set you up better by the time that our project ends. And not just offer that to, the San Jose's of the world, but offer that to the towns that are interested, excited, and willing to put in the work. So Sean's going to walk you through our first example opportunity. And I highly encourage you, you're not signing up to say 100% my agency is doing this. But if you're interested in learning more about these things, we want to open these opportunities up to more than just the 5 cities that a lot of universities and civil society organizations already have on their Rolodex. So with that, Sean, I'll pass it back to you, but just wanted to really highlight the access that we hope that this can provide for a lot of agencies interested in getting that additional capacity boost from some experts in the field.
Yeah, thank you, Albert, for that information. So, like Albert said, here's a concrete example. We're highlighting a current opportunity available now. This one is led by Stanford and Allies, and it's focused on helping governments run better public engagement around data center development. This includes conversations about things like energy use, water impacts, and community concerns. The value here is helping agencies surface issues early, reduce risk, and improve engagement without adding significant staff burden. So, if this is relevant to your jurisdiction, we encourage you to take a look. Just a FYI, these submissions are first come, first serve, and the deadline is June 20th. So, express your interest now. And with that, we're going to transition into our committee spotlight. Today, we'll be hearing from the Use Case Committee for a 20-minute deep dive. They'll be sharing how governments are actually using vibe coding today, including practical examples and workflows you can learn from. So with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to the team.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Oh, thank you, Sean and Jamie. Just one thing I want to highlight because Kausar, forgive me, I might be butchering your name, but Kausar Razvi just put some interesting notes about state of Ohio. So if some of our civil society folks are looking for to support around data center conversations, might want to follow up on that. But apologies, Jamie. I want to pass it off to you.
Thank you, Albert and Sean. Both of you, if you want to move to the next slide, I'm going to introduce the amazing people who have really been deep diving into vibe coding this year. So we're from the Use Cases Committee. I'm Jamie Wiscalis from the City of St. Paul. I am the board advisor. And what we're doing in the Use Cases Committee is really just trying to discover and share the value of AI across the public sector. And that has led us really into a deep dive of vibe coding this year. And so we're going to share with you some of the things that we've been doing. And we really hope to have you join us for our next session, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. But I would love to hand it over to Melanie McDonough, Nicole Sterling, and Carrie Johnson, who are going to provide some insight into the work we've been doing. Take it away, y'all.
All right, I'll jump in. So I'm Melanie McDonough. I'm the Chief Innovation and AI Officer for City of Lebanon, New Hampshire. We're about 15,000 population. We bump up to a whopping 35,000 population. So we're really interested in trying to find ways to maximize during that population bump is during the day, and then it goes back down. So we just have very few resources. So vibe coding started for us as kind of, hey, can we make this work and solve some problems in our city where we don't have a lot of funds? If that sounds familiar, then you should start thinking about vibe coding. We've found some really great success in case uses. So for us, that journey really started with a problem that we had around our strategic plan. It was unstructured data and really hard to access. And it was kind of the idea of our strategic plan was growing faster than we could actually manage it. And so right about that time, vibe coding kind of came on the scene, and I decided to start to jump in and see like, hey, we have no options here, no money, no way to solve this problem. Is there a possibility that we can solve it here? And started to put together some tools. At that time, vibe coding was just very new. So I started using Replit, if you've heard of that platform. If not, it's just basically similar to other platforms out there, such as Bolt or Lovable. I know there's others like Claude Code, kind of came out later, and I think most people have probably heard of that, and Codex. And I've probably bumped and used a little bit of all of them, but Replit's where I started at the time, and we had a lot of success with it. And I don't know, Albert, if you were going to share or we're just powering through this.
Oh,
If you
yeah,
want
Melanie.
to kind
So
of like
we'll
go
I
and
absolutely want to dive into the special sauce that y'all have been cooking up, but I want to give us a chance to introduce everyone,
oh, okay,
because
we're gonna go
we
one
got
at a
our group.
time. I didn't know.
No problem, Melody. And get
Melanie's
into
just
it.
going in.
I know,
Yeah, no,
right?
I
Here, I
love
thought
it.
we were gonna go one at a time. Sorry.
Nicole, please go ahead and Carrie, if you're able to turn on your camera, then I can pin you up here as well. Go for
Okay,
it.
while Carrie is doing her camera, I'll introduce myself. My name is Nicole Sterling. I currently sit as the mayor of a little itty bitty town called Netterland, Colorado. And we punch a little bit above our weight in Nederland, Colorado, but purchasing ski mountains and all the things. But I play a dual role, as many people know. I am both public servant and also an AI vendor. And so when Melanie and I started to collaborate around and think about vibe coding, we're like, oh, how interesting the dynamics. And this is kind of what we'll get into a little bit with Albert's questioning is how can local governments and their vendor partners also use vibe coding in really strategic ways? And so, as a local community or as a local government, our little town is also starting to experiment with vibe coding to again to just unlock as you'll hear from us, we're the subject matter experts, and these things are in our head, but we just don't always have a committee or a group of software developers to pull what's out of our head. And that's a cool advantage of being able to use vibe coding. So we'll talk more about that here in just a bit. But I think Carrie needs to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carrie Johnson. I'm the Chief Data and Analytics Officer at the City of Scottsdale. And I'm just noticing here that we all have different chief something names, but we're all doing this same thing and managing all this data and AI together. Um, I think I think the use case for the vibe coding came about a little differently for us than others. It's more that we have people that we want to accelerate what they're able to do in their job, but not necessarily a lot of funds for heavy duty training. And, we have a lot of tools. And it's hard to learn all those new tools at once. So, from my point of view, this is enabling and empowering my team to learn new things quickly and safely and share them with others that we need to interact with, like security and our engineers, and kind of understand together how we can reverse engineer it and make sure that we have followed all the correct security protocols while giving people speed in development.
Thank you, Carrie, Nicole, Melanie, and Jamie. Truly, fantastic group of incredible women and IT professionals and leaders here who are vibe coding the future of government. So, Melanie, I'm gonna pass it to you, and I'm gonna share screen here. Maybe you can walk me through a bit of I've got your strategic plan dashboard, but maybe give people a little overview because you've really been building. Um, and I want you to kind of walk us through some of what you've been building, how it's been going, the process for you.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
and so this is our strategic plan. And just mind you, we got a new city manager, and our strategic plan is on hold. So if you come in here, nothing's happened with it because nothing has happened with our strategic plan. We're all still working. So at some point this will change. But really, what I started, down that path is just that we had a problem with our strategic plan not being accessible, and we priced out, some options to try and make our plan accessible. Our city council couldn't look at it. Our public was having trouble accessing this. We had a city manager who was really like pushing forward to get a strategic plan, lots of data, and we just kind of had this problem. So this one came about where, like I said, I just kind of jumped into Replit and said, hey, can I take all this unstructured data? And I used a combination of ChatGPT. We have OpenAI's ChatGPT business account. And so I was scraping data out of our Miro boards, putting it in there, saying, making structured JSON, coming back over to Replit and saying, we need a portal, and these are the things that we need. Here's all the problems I've heard from everyone. I know nothing about coding. Well, I know about coding and nothing about coding. And so here's all the pain points that we have, and make something. And it, just started to come together, and it was doing it. And so we were able to kind of build and bring all that data in. And now what we have on the end side is, hey, you can search the plan, you can tag certain things, and our staff can go in and easily update the information. We can gather metrics, and we have a SQL database now, which sounds really fancy. And I don't pretend to actually know how all that stuff works, but I see the advantage of it. We were able to do, hey, one push button to get all the data into a PDF so we can put it in an agenda, because we still need PDFs, and but still have kind of this experience. And so this, I know we don't have a lot of time, but this really came together, and it really solved a problem and was very well received, and will continue to probably be the way that we try to solve this problem in the future, just because it's worked for us so far.
Awesome. And Melanie, it just to be clear, how how many people worked on building this to this prototype?
The actual portal,
Yeah,
here,
this
yep,
what we're seeing here. And I can
yeah, me.
you okay.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that I had to get approval from our cyber services team to actually use Replit. So we used Replit here. So I needed approval from them to actually get an account and have that on our city side. Otherwise, I mean, an enormous amount of work went into this, obviously, from staff coming up with all their KPIs and their items and all that stuff. But the actual build was really me being super frustrated and saying, all these people are working so hard. How do we solve this problem? And brought it to this point. So now it's expanding out, and we have more team members coming in, and we're getting more people on board with this.
Awesome. And so this was a combination of you started with ChatGPT, you spun it up in Replit, and you're able to build this prototype. And I was just playing around with this, but I tried searching up like traffic safety,
Yeah.
found some objectives here, was able to click into that, see them. So this is really all just all this sort of prototype to serve people. And Melanie, I'm curious, is this anything that we could share with the coalition, just like the links to any of this so that they could see it, or
Yeah.
is that okay?
It's on our city's it's actually public on our city's website, so share away on
Oh
any of the
wow.
stuff. And then I don't know if my GitHub is public with this code. We're kind of transferring some stuff over to our city side because this actually has lived This one is on our city side, but I don't think the GitHub is public yet, just because we need more
Yeah.
minds.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. And I think that, and so I just put the link to this in the chat for folks to test out. And I do want to caution, don't explore it, learn about it. But I think what's important, like Melanie, like you're saying, is there's different levels of when something goes to prime time or not, and when something is ready to release, like your GitHub versus this. And it's super cool to know that this is on your city website now. So I want to turn it uh to Carrie a little bit to talk through, this is great what we're seeing here, right? This is something that Melanie is able to build, little coding experience or potentially no coding experience before this. What does that mean for the rest of us IT folks? Like, how does this change our job? What should we be thinking about in terms of adding to the value that we're seeing? Really anyone in our organization could come to us with and say, I think this is something useful now. Can we build this tech, or can we scale this?
I think that we are going to have to learn in IT that we are now the developers of people's ideas, not necessarily the developer of something from the ground up. They know what they need to do. They know what the end result needs to be. They know what their branding needs to be. And from my point of view, this saves hours, weeks, potentially months of time trying to get all those tiny things right from written requirements or having phone calls and meetings together with these kinds of requirements where you talk it out. We are visual creatures as human beings, and the ability of someone to just, type 2 or 3 paragraphs and give me something to look at, give me something to give my team to look at and say they need it to look like this, and here's the data. You guys know where the secure data is. You know who's able to access it. Let's wire them up this front end. Let's do this thing, right? I also think that there is going to come a day, and it's going to be before we think, that the traditional write someone a dashboard that takes 12 weeks to write a dashboard is done, and we will take our own city gold layer data and we will give everyone the power to just develop their own dashboard with a few sentences. And the dashboards will become disposable. They won't be some monolithic thing that we're going to keep the pipelines updated, but they're going to use their data. And when someone asks a question, they can develop a dashboard in 10 minutes, take it here and there to whatever meeting, and then it's gone. It's disposable until the next big question comes along. I see this being a new way for business analysis to happen. So in order for these kinds of things to happen, and in order to take people's ideas to fruition, we as IT are now the stewards of the guardrails. When you need it to be in production, you bring it to us and we develop the guardrails. But your ideas are easily developable by yourself. And there's so many chat things coming up that I can't possibly absorb them all at once. I'll try to go through a minute when we hand it over to Nicole, who really gets to see both sides of the world and her very amazing and fascinating dual life in the world, right? But for me, from my point of view, this is really just a good way to build things faster and for less money in government. And we're always do more with less. And that is how I see it.
Very. It feels like there's this new potential model coming up of the IT professionals serve as the cleanup, the vetting, uh, ensuring that things are secure. Well, when now the business folks can actually build a prototype themselves. How does this impact purchasing for you?
Well, I think that depends, and it depends on what your city allows for tools, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because now the money is there's going to be money spent up front for tools. And are you cloud adopters? Are you cloud native? Because that's where this really works better, is you're cloud native and you can deploy things in just the small workload, right? Melanie, you talked about SQL Server, but I think for as small as what your product is, if you were an AWS shop, and I'm sure there's something in Google that's the same, I would have done that in a DynamoDB because it's very dynamic and it doesn't need to be a huge workload and it would be very inexpensive and doesn't need someone stewarding a whole entire SQL server. I think this is probably how local governments get out of technical debt, which we have loads of.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nicole, as we're thinking about navigating things like, say, that technical debt or the applications of these tools, what what can we speed up? What feels like it's, that we need to keep slow or keep thoughtful?
Yeah, this is something that we talk about, or that we have, talked about in the use cases committee, is that, listen, there are some things as a part of our public process that should be deliberate and should be slow. Part of the public input, the deliberateness of some of our strategies that we do, right? Local government is always going to be slower by nature than the private sector because we have a broader obligation to our public. And yet, there are certain points along our workflows, and you start to hear more and more as we get into, what are we, year 3 or year 4 of this whole generative AI journey, is that now we are starting to focus more on those workflows. And so, where in our various workflows can we condense and we can get faster at things? And, some folks have, I'm reading the chats, and some folks have already said prototyping. Prototyping is one of those things in those places that we can condense a timeline. It doesn't take weeks and months anymore to present something to either your AI vendor or your team and say, is this what we were thinking of? And so it can collapse that by a long shot. I was in a room. I think I was at a smart cities thing here in Colorado, and I had said something like this to one of the guys that was from NVIDIA there, of like, hey, what if we gave local governments the ability to vibe code the thing that it is that NVIDIA oftentimes is hired to consult for? And he just said, oh my gosh, that's the power move right there. Do you know how many weeks and thousands of dollars we would save local governments? And I'm like, yeah, yeah, that's what we're trying to go for, because the consulting line item is so expensive. And so we're starting to see some of those other use cases that have popped up in permitting and, these other areas where we do have an opportunity to condense the timeline a bit more, but still leave room for the public deliberate processes that local governments are meant to do. So,
Absolutely, right. It feels like a revolution for what governments can test out and try and experiment and learn with. And to that point, I want to highlight shout out to, I think it was Brendan from Anchorage, who said, you know, you, when you're dealing with a lot of these situations, and Melanie, I think maybe your examples might have been like this. A lot of the data that you're testing with, is it already public? Like, what's a good safe space for people to start testing with here?
Yeah, so that has been my model from the beginning on all of this, is what is already public, what is low risk, but what's going to have the biggest bang for the buck? Like, what's going to solve a problem that's a really big problem for us, but has the lowest possible risk. And that really starts with what's already public. What do we already push out there that already is available? And so that's really where most of my problem around, right? Like, we're not really doing anything with any sensitive internal data. It's all just me prototyping at home, really, to say if I can access it from home like anyone, then this is probably pretty safe data to use. And I can experiment with that and see how far. And to that point, one of the things I think that we're already starting to see in our organization is that we have residents and people doing business with us, trying to get service from us, who are very, very frustrated by our process. And we actually have residents going and building, like, don't use the city's site. We scraped all their data and we are actually building our own app and come use ours, which is a really scary prospect. Like, if we don't actually deliver a good service, the tools aren't just that, hey, isn't it great that government can vibe code? Residents are now like, I can vibe code this thing and I want my own personalized experience. And now we're going to have a problem with, if they can actually build something and serve something up better, they're not even going to, like, we're going to have some
Yeah.
problems. So
Yeah.
the idea that we need to upskill and we need to meet our residents and listen to them and actually deliver an experience that can at least, yes, we need to be slow and deliberate. Like, I love that because that is government. But when we do deliver, can we please deliver at the way that people expect services to be delivered? And that's the tension for us. So I think that even though we're going to see some, hey, isn't this great? We're going to solve some problems. We're really, I think, facing some other types of problems that are going to put a demand on us to really rise up to this moment and provide that level of service. And there's different ways I think that we can deliver that. Carrie, you were saying the way we would have solved that is with this kind of database and done that. We don't even have that. Like, if you said those words to anyone in our city, they wouldn't even know what you're talking about. Like, we don't even have any of those tools. So we didn't have any options where this is the best thing. But what it does highlight is, hey, this is what a SQL like database actually looks like. It's hosted on Replit, who's using, I can't remember the name right now, another service, Supabase or something like that. But maybe we need to bring this in-house. And now they can see the prototype. They can see why a city might actually want to have a SQL server and deliver their data up and have control over it more than Melanie's storing it all in this other service that isn't in-house. So I think there's various, depending on where your organization is, a lot of different ways to look at this. But the idea to not look at it, I think, is probably not a great way. But
I never thought of that before, but yeah, what would stop a resident from trying to create their own solution if we can't provide it?
we're actually getting right to know requests that are literally asking for data. And we have to kind of give them some of it, but they're using it to build applications.
And I mean,
Nicole,
think
yeah,
about the,
please.
I was just going to say, think about the opportunity of
Yeah.
this, because in the private sector, we, as startups and as companies, we have hackathons.
Mhm.
What if we started to have local government hackathons with our residents participating as a part of that, right? And so then they become part of the process. And so that's like that, those are even some of the things that, the town of Nederland that we're starting to explore is like, whoa, what does this unlock for us? Again, with all the same things like, that Carrie and Melanie are talking about with the security and the protocols, and when that handoff happens to real, IT and engineering professionals to put it into practice, but it does open up an interesting question of how, if coding is so accessible now, how could we use it to our advantage to make sure that, like Melanie is saying, deliver the services that residents are expecting?
Mhm.
What if we have them design it?
And also, I think another way of thinking about it is maybe we don't. Maybe all we have to do at this point is actually see our data as infrastructure and expose our data so that they input MC, like, I don't want to use
Yep.
too many technical terms, but
MCP, right?
allow MCPs and things to exist where here's our data, go ahead and play with it. And I think Boston's kind of showing some of that proof point out there, but there's different ways to solve it. So it's not like, hey, we have to vibe code every solution or we have to do things and some things are going to stay the same, but there are many ways I think that we can approach this. And yeah, that's part of the use committee, I think, experience.
And we could talk about this for hours. I'm seeing all the questions. Carrie, thank you so much for also just diving in here and starting to answer some questions in the chat. I'm just gonna plug, and I know Jamie's gonna plug this as well. We're gonna continue this conversation at the next use cases committee meeting. So I'm gonna keep popping that link in the chat to register for that. But we are running short on time here. So I just want to get from Nicole and Melanie and Carrie, like, what would you recommend for the folks here that are looking to get started? You can be specific here. What tool would you recommend, or tools would you recommend that they try and explore? Doesn't need to be that exact tool, but something to support them. Uh, where would you recommend they get started? And looking at Carrie as well, if there was something that you wanted your IT staff to get trained up on now, what would you want to start pushing them? So I'll open it up to folks if anyone's raring to go to start that.
Oh my goodness. So many things. So many.
I know.
Um, we use a tool called Kiro, and it's kind of half and half. It's like you have Visual Studio and your vibe coding in one sort of tool, and you can tell it to flip back and forth between them. So one of the things I'd really like for my department to be good at is developing those, the word has left my mind, but uh, making good structure sheets in the non-vibe coding side. So when they figure something out in vibe coding, they immediately can build the sheets that secure it, and that we have that in an automated template fashion. I also would very much to like to have people just be able to take any kind of learning on anything data and AI related on my team from anywhere that they think helps them support their jobs. I don't have I'm a give all the people all the toys sort of person. And they don't have to be in my team. I don't care. I just open up the worlds to the people and give them the guardrails. That's really the best way I can put it and what I think about. Open up everyone's world, not just IT's world. Help them secure it. Let them also do cool things. We have a plethora here. Our actual app devs love Claude Code and they use Claude. They also use GitHub Copilot. We have people here that are piloting Codex, ChatGPT. So we kind of have it all.
Melanie, Nicole, any last words?
Yeah, I'll throw in just from a standpoint, depending on your size. I always kind of point people to what do you already have, because most of the platforms. So if you have any AI right now, if you have Microsoft and you have Copilot GCC, they do have GitHub Copilot, and I've heard some good things about that. So maybe that's your easiest win is go with whatever you're on. In our organization, we have OpenAI. Business Chat and Microsoft. And so I like Codex, and I think it does a really great job. And that can be your start for vibe coding inside that space. And it's part of the platform if you already pay for that. So you get a certain amount of credits and you can go there. And then the problem that you can kind of get to is how do we stand this up? So if you're very small like we are, and there's not like, hey, we're going to host this on our Azure or anything like that because your teams aren't developers, then that's where Replit for us came into play. And I really like Replit. You can get a core account for $180 a year for annual account. The credits go pretty far. And you can invite other users into that space, and they have a very strong security feature. So it's running security checks on your code all the time and telling you when dependencies are outdated or need to be patched, and they help you patch it. So for our teams, that's kind of my box. But Nicole?
Yeah, I'm a Power Claude Code user. I run it out of my terminal, but also because of my unique position of being leading an AI company for local government, I often prototype, just like everyone else here in local government is prototyping, these apps to use in local government. I also prototype new feature sets for my team so that then we can put it into production. Again, this whole idea of condensing the time to market much more quickly. And we also do that same prototyping in the local government. But I'm a Claude Code, and I will also use ChatGPT sometimes. But yeah, Claude Code is my thing. And really quick, just address a question that was here. It was a question to Carrie of like, hey, will your folks actually like take shortcuts as they are vibe coding, right? What we have found is that people who take the time to vibe code start to build an intuition and an understanding of how products get built.
Mhm.
And with that is pain and suffering, which is good because then you start to understand, oh my goodness, what is a database? Why do I need it? And they become so much more fluent in how actual products need to be built and they start thinking through the user experience. So, if anything, everyone should become a vibe coder just to go through that process and understand what it takes to actually launch something out into the world.
Amen. Thank you to all of our three use case committee leads. Well, Nicole and Carrie as chairs, Melanie as a fixture of the community for many years at this point. Please give all three of them a major round of applause. And I'm going to pass it off to our board advisor on the use cases committee and absolute anchor in the coalition, Jamie, to take us home. And I'll share my screen just to get us back on that track, Jamie.
Thank
you.
you so much, Albert. Thank you so much, Nicole, Carrie, and Melanie. Y'all, see what you've been missing, right? You've been missing so much. So there's an opportunity. We've put the link in the chat a number of times. Albert's going to share his screen. We shared out the slide deck beforehand. There's going to be a link on there to our meeting next week on June 2nd. We're gonna continue this discussion there. There is so much information in this chat. I am so excited to dive into it. We want you to come to that meeting, share what you're building, right? Come learn, right? If you haven't done it at all, if you're exploring, we're going to figure out how we can get all people into a room. We might break out into certain rooms for beginners, so we can start from ground zero, but then also have opportunity for people to share. Love the sharing that's happening here, right? This is why we're here. We want to help government find that value. So please come to the meeting, share what you're doing. I'm looking at you. I think it was maybe Brendan, Ben from Alaska. There's just a number of you on here who have been sharing. I want to see you there. And we'll continue this conversation next Tuesday. That's all I have from here, and I'll turn it back over to you, Albert.
Thank you, Jamie. And that just about does it for our coalition-wide meeting here in May. As Jamie said, come check out the Use Cases Committee. They've been talking about vibe coding for the last couple of months, and we're going to be diving into it, especially for those that are new to the Use Cases Committee on June 2nd. So check that out. We shared out our newsletter just an hour ago, so take a look at that. We've got some great new updates and news from the coalition, highlights around our data governance strategy document, which, if you know AI, you know how important it is to think about data governance and the strategies behind your data in the wake of AI. So our data governance committee has put something together around that, and I highly recommend you take a look at their template to get an 80% start on your data governance. Take a look at our registry, of course, for all AI product details. Take a look at what people have been putting out there. Get personalized adoption support on community engagement, data governance, and AI policies. One of the things we constantly hear is how I love the templates. I don't know where to start and I don't know how to get help. This is the place to do it. You'll see this link also in our newsletter, which we sent out. You also see it in the slides right here. This is a great place to work with fellow volunteers in civil society and in government to work together and support each other on these three crucial topics. Would love to see you all in December in our 2026 summit and share what you'd like to via our survey. And last but not least, I look forward to seeing you all, if not in one of our committees, at our next coalition-wide meeting, June 24th, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Thank you all. Huge thank you to our Use Cases Committee, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.